Okay, we are going to get started with the February Club Q kit. This one is called My Heart is Full. And I love these fun colors that we've used in this paper line. We don't often get to use purple, so we are excited to have this paper for Club Q. With this particular kit, we suggest Coal Miner, Sugar Plum, and Feather Gray powder puff chalking inks, but there's lots of colors that will match, so I'm actually going to use some Blueberry Bliss in here also to kind of bring out the blues. Lots of different grays you could use. We have different color purples, so you get into your stash, you choose the colors that work for you. With your directions, keep this part handy kind of next to you so you can see where we're putting things and kind of see where things are, and it's easy to glance over there as I'm going through instructions. We are going to start with the cutting diagrams and all of the cutting, get that out of the way first. One thing that you can start on is your gray ribbon. You want to cut that into 5 inches. So 3 5-inch pieces. So 5 inches, 5 inches, and you'll have 3 5-inch pieces. Your vellum, you want to cut around the light gray edge there, and it can be a really rough cut. This is going to be covered with a laser anyway around the top, so it can be a rough cut around there. Cut both of those out because we're going to cover it like this with a laser. And I'm going to move my trimmer in here and we'll get started with the cutting diagrams. So the first one is actually on your master sheet here. We're going to grab a gray piece of paper and do that first cutting diagram. So I'm going to move this out of the way. Get our sample out of the way here. We'll get out our 2 background papers. And I am going to move in my trimmer and get the trimmer, all the trimming out of the way to begin with. What we need for the first one, we are going to do this diagram here. So we want the gray side, and we're going to just trim off a 1/2 inch because we want an 11.5. Trim off a 1/2 inch, any edge, and then we'll turn it and cut it at 6. So that gives us 2 6 by 11.5 pieces, and we'll set those aside. And then we can hang on to this and set it aside to just kind of glance at as we go. The next diagram looks like this, and it's on a little sheet of paper in your packet. And if you want to cut it exactly how we have here, I'll show you how to do that. But if you get the paper in a different orientation or a different direction, it's no big deal because most of this will actually be covered with photos once you get it onto your page. So any direction you want to cut it is fine. We are, to begin with, going to put it in at 5 inches. And if, as you can see, the darker kind of flourish, the darker purple flourish is going to be towards you. This lighter flower is towards the top of your trimmer. And we're going to trim at 5 inches. Once you have that cut, we turn it this way and we do our 10.5 inch cut. And this is just extra. I know a lot of times Quick Quotes, we use all the extra pieces for something, for tags, or we use the negatives from lasers and stuff, but this one we actually don't use the extra pieces. Okay, so we'll set that aside. And then we'll cut the 3.5 by 5.5. So if you want it exactly how we did there, you will take this and cut it at 5.5. an extra piece, get rid of that. And then we will turn this way and cut it at 3.5 and just move it down again, 3.5, 3.5, and 3.5. So we'll set these aside till we're ready to use them on our page. And that's the entire cutting diagram. So we got that out of the way early. We can get our trimmer out of the way. And we'll get started on loading up these pages. So to begin with, like I said earlier, get out any of the colors that you feel like you might work for you. We are going to work on page 1 first. And let's get, I'm going to show you here. You have 2 gray crescents like this, and you want both of your vellum pieces. And what I do is just use a glue pin, and I just put it around the center edge here. You don't need a lot of adhesive, but I just put it around the center edge here, and then I lay it over top. And this does not have to be exact. You just want it over enough to stick to the vellum. So you can see it doesn't have to go right up to the edge. This is just kind of a real rough cut. And then you have one for each page. And this one I actually chalked up so you can see what it looks like with the sugar plum. So you do that for each page. And then you'll want to take your 2 11.5 by 6 inch pieces. And I'm not gluing any of this down right now because I want to make sure that I have it all in place and in the direction that I want it. Sometimes once you get your photos, you kind of want to move things around a little bit so you're not covering up photos, or so they fit a little better. So I'm just going to lay this out here, and then when I'm done and have things in place, then I'll pick things up kind of piece by piece and glue behind there. So once you have those 2 on, you have your 3.5 by 5.5 pieces from your cutting diagram. And what I did was I actually chalked mine up in 3 different colors so that you can see what it kind of looks like. If you've never used our chalking inks before, they're super easy to use. So I'm going to actually go over, let's do this one. Just hang on to the back. I do a little more around the corners. It has a soft chalky look. It's fast drying. It dries permanent. Very easy to use. Just run it down the edge. Do a little more on the corners, make it a little more rounded. So it just kind of gives a little extra color and dimension on there. So once you have your backers chalked up the way that you want, what I do, and you can place these in any order on there, pictures will cover up most of the print anyway, but I usually do the 2 outside, and you want a little border around, little gray border around there, maybe about a quarter of an inch, and then I center this one. And those you can go, if you have those in place, you can go ahead and glue those down to the gray paper. On the page 2, go ahead and chalk that up however, but this also came out of your diagram, and I think it's a 10.5 by 5.5, or by 5, I guess. And this one will go in the center of here. Now once you get that on, we have 2, it actually looks like kind of like a chain, but we have these 2 pieces break apart, And they slide right underneath here. And they come out just outside of the edge of the gray paper. And a lot of times when I get my layout set up the way that I want it, I actually just pick up edges like this, and I put a little glue here, a little glue here, a little glue here, and press it back down where it needs to be. You go ahead and adhere things however you would like. I tend to get these in place, and then I'll pick up the edge and I'll put adhesive and back down. Pick up the edge, adhesive, and back down. Because it doesn't need to be covered completely. It's going to stay on with just, you know, a few strips of adhesive in there. And the only tricky part of this kit is really figuring out what flowers go where. And we try to make it easy for you. But sometimes it's easier just to watch the video and follow along. So there's one die cut that has kind of a splattered blue and purple with a script in the background. So those you want to punch out. And the way that we are going to do that, and I'm just laying these out again, and you can pick them up and chalk them later, pause the video and chalk them after we get them laid out. But out of this die cut, we have some medium ones. So we start with a medium size and then a larger size. Medium, larger, and then medium. And you can kind of see how close you'll need to get them together. And then out of the other laser, we have some small flowers and again some medium flowers. So 3 smaller ones and 2 medium ones out of the flourish paper. And what we do is on this first medium size one, this goes in the middle. The larger one gets a medium flourish and so on. So it's small, medium, small, medium, small. Oops. Medium and small. And then on page 1, I have these chalked up for you. There is a larger flourish flower and then a little bit smaller flourish flower. Those go together. And then there's 2 from the one that has script on it. And if you choose to use the teal side, that's totally fine. That's up to you. If you want to use the teal side on any of these or the gray side, you go ahead and flip them the way that you want to. But right now I'm going to show you how I made this flower with so much dimension and it kind of pops off the page. So with each of them, you can chalk them up the color that you want, and I kind of just do the ends because you won't see the centers much. And then I take each petal and I fold them in half. And just crease it there in the middle. And then I lay that down. I'm going to do it looks charcoal on this next one and do some gray. And again, even on the small ones, do a little crease and a fold on the petal. And that just makes it pop up a little bit. And then you can put a little adhesive here or a pop dot. Oops. And that goes right on there. And once you get all of those layered up and glued together, you can adhere these to the page and maybe just put a little pop dot or a little glue dot there, any sort of adhesive. And this you want to have about 1.5 inches to 2 inches from the right side, and it also depends on what kind of picture you're going to put here, so you don't want to move it over too much so that you can't see it. Your little banner gets put on. One trick I do want to show you is I'm going to use this as a scrap piece of paper here. You can see I've actually done it once. You can either just do just the edges and maybe the color, put a little color on the edges of the leaves, or if you want to change the color completely, I would just lay it on a scrap piece of paper and take your ink pad and pat it around until you have it as dark as you want and whatever color you want. So that's an easy little trick, so that with these little delicate, more intricate die cuts, they're kind of hard to handle. If you just lay it down and pat it, it kind of gives it a whole new look. So give that a try if you want to change up the color. And I'm going to tuck these in. And again, if you need to scoot it over just a little bit to make these fit, this is why I give it a try first before I glue it down. The flourishes, they kind of look good wherever you put them. So if you need to do one across the top, then that's fine too. And then you can finish up your flowers, your strip of flowers here. You have 2 gray, those go on the bigger flowers. The white goes on the smaller. There's a bigger white one that goes over here. Your flourishes get added to this side. And again, you don't have to follow mine exactly, just kind of whatever works for your photos. And see how easy this kit was? It's just a simple one to put together, but it really feels like you have a lot in here and lots of different color. Your ribbon, once you have your 3 pieces, you want to just take each piece and just do 1 knot. And then it just gets glued to the top. You don't have to put it through any of your paper. You can trim these at an angle if you'd like to, or you can fold them over so that the sides line up, and then you trim back towards you and it gives you a nice little dove's tail there. So do that 3 times all the way across the top. And then once you have the photos on there that you want, you can go ahead and glue this stuff down. There's also extra little pieces of paper that came off the ends of some of the diagrams that you can make into little tags if you want to add to it. But other than that, we are done. This was a super easy kit, and I think it's beautiful, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for being a Club Q member, and I hope you enjoy March as well. It's up on the website, so check out shopquickquotes.com, the Club Q featured month, and we will see you next time.